Vrindavanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Shlotara Shata Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Gadadhar Shivas Adi Shri Gaura Bhaktavrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Navadvip Dham Ki Ganga Maya Yamuna Mai Ki Bhakti Devi Tulasi Devi Ki Harinam Sankirtan Yuga Dharma Ki Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Shiva Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Everyone, we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Canto 4, Chapter 2. The title of the chapter is Daksha Curses Lord Shiva. Today we will read text number 17 and 18 together. So I will read text 17 and then we can read text 18 together. But before we do that, let us see what is happening in this chapter to get the idea what happened before these two verses that we will read. So at present, Maitreya and Vidura are discussing Srimad Bhagavatam. Maitreya is narrating the Bhagavatam to Vidura. And in the previous chapter, Maitreya mentioned the incident between Daksha and Shiva. So as soon as Vidura heard this, he inquired more. What happened? Please, can you tell me why was Daksha so angry on Lord Shiva? What is this incident? I wish to know more.
Those who want to interact. You don't want to interact? No. So Daksha didn't like Shiva because he married his favorite daughter, Sati Devi.
Thank you, Prasad. And then Maitreya start narrating that there was a great sacrifice happening, and Prajapati Daksha and other demigods, they were assembled. And Daksha was the leader of the Prajapatis. And at the moment when he was entering the arena, he looked like a brilliant sun, shining, effulgent. And all the demigods stood up to welcome him, except two persons. Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. So they didn't stood up, they remained seated on their places. Daksha offered his obeisances to Lord Brahma, but he didn't offer his obeisances to Lord Shiva because he was considering Lord Shiva inferior. So Lord Shiva was supposed to stand up and greet him. So Daksha felt offended. And at that time, he started to glorify Lord Shiva, but not in a positive way. He started to speak badly about Lord Shiva. He said, look at this. His name is Shiva, which means auspicious, but he is actually the most inauspicious person. He walks around with his ghostly friends. He smears ashes on his body. He wears a garland of skulls and bones. He doesn't take bath. He smells bad. He lives in a crematorium. So what kind of personality is that? And then on top of all these external comments that he said on his body, he said, but he has nothing auspicious in his heart. Only nasty things reside in his heart. So that was Daksha's criticism towards Lord Shiva. And then what he did? Then we will find out what he did in these two verses. Maitreya uvacha vinindhyaivam sagirisham apratipam avastitam dakshodha paupasprishya krudha shaptum prachakrame. The sage Maitreya continued, thus Daksha, seeing Lord Shiva sitting as if against him, he washed his hands and mouth and cursed him in the following words. So Daksha saw Lord Shiva sitting in front of him. He went, he washed his hands, washed his mouth, and prepared himself to curse. Like that what he said, like that was not enough, so he still had to curse him. So we can read the verse together. Ayam tu deva yajana. Ayam tu deva yajana. Indro pendradhibir bhava. Indro pendradhibir bhava. Sahabhagam nalabhatam. Sahabhagam nalabhatam. Devar deva ganadhama. Devar deva ganadhama. Ayam tu deva yajana. Indro pendradhibir bhava. Sahabhagam nalabhatam. Devar deva ganadhama. Ayam tu deva yajana. Pendradhibir bhava. Sahabhagam nalabhatam. Deva ganadhama. Ayam tu deva yajana. Devar deva ganadhama. Mataji. Ayam tu deva yajana. Indropendra Nibirbhava Sahabhagam Nalabhatam Devar Deva Ganadhama Ayam tu Deva Yajana Indropendra Dibirbhava Sahabhagam Nalabhatam Devar Deva Ganadhama Ayam that tu but Deva Yajane in the sacrifice of the demigods Indra Upendra Adivi with Indra, Upendra and the others Bhavaha Shiva Saha along with Bhagam a portion not Labhatam should obtain Devaihi with the demigods Devagana Adhama the lowest of all the demigods. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The demigods are eligible to share in the oblations of sacrifice. But Lord Shiva, who is the lowest of all the demigods, should not have a share. Once again, the demigods are eligible to share in the oblations of sacrifice. But Lord Shiva, who is the lowest of all the demigods, should not have a share. In other words, everybody can get something in the sacrificial arena, but Lord Shiva will not get anything. Purport. Because of this curse, Shiva was deprived of his share in the oblations of Vedic sacrifices. It was due to the curse of Daksha, Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti comments in this connection, that Lord Shiva was saved from the calamity of taking part with other demigods, who were all materialistic. Lord Shiva is the greatest devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it is not fitting for him to eat or sit with materialistic persons like the demigods. Thus the curse of Daksha was indirectly a blessing, for Shiva would not have to eat or sit with other demigods, who were too materialistic. There is a practical example set for us by Gorkishore Das Babaji Maharaj, who used to sit on the side of a latrine to chant Hare Krishna. Many materialistic persons used to come and bother him and disturb his daily routine of chanting. So to avoid their company, he used to sit by the side of a latrine, where materialistic persons would not go because of the filth and the obnoxious smell.
Sorry, Mataji's and Prabhu, it's too many distractions. With translation, I think it's too much. Is it okay for you, Vrindaranya? You prefer not?
It's a bit... However, Gorkishore Das Babaji Maharaj was so great that he was accepted as the spiritual master of such a great personality as His Divine Grace Om Vishnupad Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. The conclusion is that Lord Shiva behaved in his own way to avoid materialistic persons who might disturb him in his prosecution of devotional service. Maitreya uvacha vinindhyaivam sagirisham apratipam avastitam dakshotapa upasprishya krudha shaptum prachakrame ayam tu deva yajana indra pendra dibir bhava sahabhagam nalabhatam devar deva ganadhama. The sage Maitreya continued, thus Daksha, seeing Lord Shiva sitting as if against him, washed his hands and mouth and cursed him in the following words. The demigods are eligible to share in the oblations of sacrifice, but Lord Shiva, who is the lowest of all the demigods, should not have a share. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Peshtaya Bhutale Swamine Krishna Kshetraya Prabhupada Priyayate. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Peshtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatari Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is the situation we are now observing in the Bhagavatam. Daksha curses Lord Shiva. So Daksha is cursing Lord Shiva. And throughout the Bhagavatam we see that there are so many curses happening. If we just pay attention and think about it, then we will be able to count so many curses in the Bhagavatam. And I was thinking it would be interesting to It would be interesting to churn a bit the Bhagavatam and try to find out some more examples of who cursed whom and what was the cause of a curse and what was the consequence of the curse. So I would like to ask all of you to take part and we can try to remember some more incidents of cursing in the Bhagavatam. For example, we can start from the first canto. Is there any curse in the first canto? Yes, Prabhu. Yeah. Maharaj Parikshit was cursed by the Brahmana boy. What was the reason? Yes, Prabhu.
I was disrespecting the father who had a snake wrapped around him.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? As a joke, and that was a curse. It was a curse that triggered another curse, because in a way, putting the snake around the yogi was a curse, right? So he failed to show respect, or it was perceived by Maharaj Pariksit that he had failed to show him respect as king. So he put the snake around his neck, which is a kind of curse.
And what was the outcome of that curse?
Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah. So Maharaj Parikshit was blessed to be cursed to die in 7 days. And what he did, he sat down and listened the Bhagavatam from Shukadeva Goswami. Plus, this Bhagavatam narration was recorded and we are hearing it now. So without that curse, we wouldn't be able to read the Bhagavatam. Some other curse in the first canto? or anywhere else? Yes, Prabhu.
Four Kumaras cursed Jai and Vijay.
Canto 3.
Yeah.
What? Do you know? Can you say more about it?
Well, the reason was because they felt disrespected by entering Vaikuntha, and actually they only did their duty. Somehow or other they stopped them by performing their duty, but they felt offended because they were actually great sages in the disguise of small little naked boys.
Yeah.
And the outcome were kind of very, very illustrious stories about Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu and Narasimhadev. And without that curse, we would not sit here and worship Nrsimhadev.
Yeah. There are a few interesting things about this Jai and Vijay curse. The Lord was actually desiring to have some fight with someone. But in Vaikuntha there are no enemies, so he couldn't fight with anyone. So that's why he arranged in such a way that Jai and Vijay get cursed, so that in next lives he can fight with them, as they will take the birth of demons. And another interesting thing is that the 4 Kumaras, they were passing through the 6 gates, and they came to the 7th gate. And there they were stopped by Jai and Vijay. So they became angry. And as we narrate the curses in the Bhagavatam, we will see that many devotees became angry. Like Daksha became angry. Then the Brahmana boy became angry. The 4 Kumaras became angry. And in one purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that actually, even in a liberated stage, there is anger. When a person is liberated, still there is anger. But it is different from the anger of materialistic person. Because materialistic person is angry because he cannot satisfy his lusty desires. Then he gets angry, and Krishna nicely explains this in the Bhagavad Gita. But the liberated person gets angry when he is stopped in his devotional service. Like 4 Kumaras, they were going to see the Lord, and then they were stopped. So they became angry because they were not allowed to see the Lord. So that was interesting that Prabhupada explains. Some other curse? Sanjay, Prabhu?
I was spontaneously reminded of Canto 10, where Narada Muni comes across Nalokuvera and Manigriva, and he curses them to become trees.
Yeah.
So I'm not fully in good memory of what was his specific mood, but in Krishna book there's mention of compassion also. Like he understands their fallen condition and inappropriate behavior, and he curses them to become trees. And the result is that they are liberated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yeah.
And as far as I remember, they are blessed also that they go back to their heavenly position until their time is up of their bodies, and after that they actually go to Vaikuntha.
Thank you. Any other, Bashar?
Just remembered one of the nicest stories actually in the 4th canto. Yeah, the 4th canto, after the story of King Puranjana, Prachina Parhishat, there is a mentioning of Narada Muni And I think Jata was her name. Jata is another I hope the name is correct, but what is correct for sure is that she's incarnation of time. She's a representation of time, like Kala. And because she wanted to marry Narada Muni, she wanted to be with Narada Muni so bad, but Narada Muni said no, he's Narada Muni, he's not into that. And she cursed him that wherever he goes, he cannot reside in one place for a long time. And that's why since then Narada Muni is traveling from one way to another. And Prabhupada is saying that's why we are coming from his parampara, that's why sannyasis are traveling from one place to another.
That is actually the story when Narada was cursed by Prajapati Daksha. Prajapati Daksha, I'm not sure if he's her father. Prajapati Daksha, he begot 1,000 sons. And he ordered them to worship Lord Vishnu to become qualified to procreate. And he sent them to a specific place. And then on the way, Narada Muni came. And Narada Muni started to preach to them. So please, better not. Become a renunciant and live an easy life. And, just be happy like that. So they said, okay. And then they didn't execute the order of Daksha. Daksha found that out, and he begot another 1,000 sons, Savalashvas, and the first were called Haryashvas. And the same thing happened. They were on the way to that specific place, and then Narada Muni came again, and he said, you see your brothers, they become mendicants, so you can become like them. No need to engage in family life. Just become renunciant and live happily. So they did that, and because of that, Narada Muni, Daksha became a bit angry, so he cursed. And the curse was, that he won't be able to stay in one place. So he will be traveling always. And Narada Muni used this into preaching. So he is traveling and chanting the glories of the holy name. There is another curse mentioned in the first canto, and that is when Yamaraj gets cursed by Manduka Muni. Manduka Muni was a sage, and he lived in a cottage, and one day there was a robbery, and the thieves ran away from that robbery place and hid into his cottage. Prabhupada says, then the police came and arrested all of them together with Manduka Muni. And the judge gave him a death penalty. So his penalty was that he will be pierced by the spike through his anus. Very, very bad, very painful death. So, just about that happens, the execution happens, the king of that state found out that the great Rishi will be killed. So he went there and he stopped everything, and he saved Manduka Muni. And Manduka Muni, being a bit upset with what everything was happening, he went immediately to Yamaraj and asked him, why? That's not fair. What did I do that I deserve such a death? And then Yamaraj told him, when you were a boy, you pierced an ant with a sharp blade of grass. You pierced him in his anus. And that's why you were supposed to die in the same way. But Manduka Muni said, I was just an innocent boy. That's not fair. You cannot judge like that. So he became upset and he cursed Yamaraj to become a Shudra in his next life. And Yamaraj then took birth as who? Yes, Prabhu. As Vidura, yeah. And Prabhupada explains something very nice, is that Yamaraj, we know who Yamaraj is. He is judging, after the death, he is judging what will be the next life of a person, of a soul. So he is very busy there in his service. He is super busy. Every day somebody is dying. So he has a lot of service to do. But we also know that he is one of the 12 Mahajanas, and that his service is also to preach. But because he's so busy there with judging people, he don't have time to preach. So the Lord arranged in such a way that he gets cursed so that he can go down in the on the planet Earth and preach. And that was very, very nice, very interesting to see, at least for me, how Krishna is actually helping his devotees to be engaged in their service. Any other curse? Yes, Prabhu.
The 6th canto where Mother Parvati curses Maharaj Chitraketu.
Yeah. Chitraketu was cursed also by Mother Parvati. He was flying in his airplane, and he saw Lord Shiva with his wife Parvati. They were embracing, and she was sitting, I think, on his lap. But they were not alone. They were surrounded by other sages. So when Chitraketu saw this, he started laughing. Like, how can he do that? And that was a bit offending to Mother Parvati, so she cursed him. And who Chitraketu became in his next life? Yeah, Vritrasura. So he became a demon, Vritrasura. And how Vritrasura ended?
Indra.
Hmm?
He was killed by Indra.
He was killed by Indra, yeah.
6.
Yes, Prabhu.
I just came another curse into my mind. Again, Indra. I mean, Indra is always in trouble somehow. And he got cursed because he killed, oh my God, he killed this brahmana who was, there was not a brahmana who made oblations for the demigods, so they looked for...
Vishwarup.
Yeah.
I think his name was Vishwarup.
Yeah, and when Indra found out that he also gave oblations to the demons, then he killed him, and then he got cursed as well. But he divided these curses amongst different happenings.
Yeah, amongst trees, water,
Women
women,
and
something else. Desert, yeah.
What's
Or
desert?
earth, yeah. That was also a nice pastime. Yes, Prabhu.
I don't know if this is in the Bhagavatam when Goddess Lakshmi curses, who was it, that Brahmana? Brigu Muni. Yeah, because he was testing, he wanted to see who is not the Supreme Lord. But is it Bhagavatam?
I don't remember. Excuse me.
So it's not right.
Any other curse? Yes, Prabhu.
In Canto 8 we have the narration of Gajendra, who was called Maharaj Indradyumna in his last life, and who was cursed by, I think, some Muni. I think also that Muni, he was not received by the meditating king, and then he cursed him to become an elephant next life. So, and the result was that this elephant, when he left his body, he was promoted to Vaikuntha as well.
He actually had darshan of the Lord. The Lord came to save him. Yes, Prabhu.
Subara Muni, he cursed Garuda that he cannot come in this lake anymore to catch some snakes, and because of that, first he fell down because he cursed a pure devotee, and then, but of this curse also Kalya could take shelter at the Yamuna, and then Krishna could deliver Kalya from. So Krishna had again his pastimes.
So now, can we have a look? Is there any repeating pattern in all these curses that we have noticed? Yes, Prabhu.
It turns out to be a blessing afterwards, somehow or other.
Yeah, most of them that we narrated turn out to be a blessing. And how the curse, how it comes that the curse, that somebody wants to curse someone else.
As you said, somebody became angry.
Yeah. So there is some kind of an offense. That somebody felt offended, then he became angry, and then he cursed another person. So I also remembered an incident from Chaitanya Charitamrita where Lord Chaitanya was cursed. Lord Chaitanya was cursed by a Brahmana. Lord Chaitanya was performing his kirtans, and there was a Brahman and he wanted to take part, but the doors were locked. So he became a bit sad and a bit upset, and he went home. But the next day he met Lord Chaitanya on the bank of the Ganges, and he expressed his anger towards Lord Chaitanya, and he said, you made me angry yesterday, but because the doors were closed, and that's all your fault, so now I will curse you. So he broke his Brahmin thread and cursed Lord Chaitanya. He said, I curse you to be bereft of material happiness. Lord Chaitanya said, Jai, very good, very good. What is the use of material happiness? And Prabhupada explains that actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be cursed. The curse cannot affect him. So we speak about curses, and that's something that definitely we should not do. We should not curse other devotees, even though if we become offended, and even though if we become angry. So we should still control ourselves and not react as the sages sometimes react in the Bhagavatam. But I was thinking of something else, is that actually how can we relate all these stories to our life? Are we also, in a sense, cursed? Did we also commit some kind of offense that we found ourselves in this material world? And I just had the idea that taking birth in the material world is a kind of a curse, because at some point in our previous lives we offended the Lord. We offended the Lord by turning our back to Him, by wanting to enjoy separately from Him. And it's not that Krishna cursed us, but due to these offenses and due to the other offenses, maybe even to the devotee in a previous life, we were not able to finish our path. So we had to take another birth. And I'm sure that you know people, devotees around you who say, I feel like I'm cursed. And I'm trying to do something and I'm just not successful in that sphere of life. I know one devotee, he just can't settle down anywhere. He comes to one place and few days and he has to go. He just can't settle down. Then there are other devotees, they just can't find a suitable partner for Grihastha ashram. It's like a curse. They just can't find. So Sanjay Prabhu mentioned the story of Nala Kuvara and Manigriva. So I wish to come back a bit to that story. Two of them, they were boys, the sons of Kuvera, king of heaven, and they were enjoying in a lake together with their girlfriends, and they were all naked and drunk, intoxicated. And Narada Muni, he came to that scene, and they were so intoxicated that they even didn't notice that Narada is there. What to say of offering some pranams? So Narada, being very compassionate, he thought, yeah, these boys, they need to learn a lesson. So he cursed them to become Arjun trees, but he also gave a blessing so that these trees grow up in the courtyard of whom? Of Nanda Maharaj. And that's the place where Krishna grew up. So we can think that if Krishna was growing up there, then probably he was playing with his friends, he was playing with Balaram in that courtyard. And probably he was often in contact with these two trees. You know, touching the trees, playing around. And the trees were hearing Krishna's voice, they were hearing Krishna's name, Balaram's name. And in that way, the trees were blessed to have the association of Krishna. And because of that association, ultimately they were liberated from that conditioning of being a tree. So we can make a conclusion that any offense can be nullified by the association of the Lord. So if we come regularly, if we come sincerely and honestly in contact, in the association of the Lord, then our offenses and our curses that we maybe have will be nullified. So now we can say, yeah, but Krishna is not playing in my courtyard, or how can I have the association of the Lord? Well, we can have, and we have daily the association of the Lord, because the Lord descended in many forms, and it is said that He can take so many forms that each and every devotee can find the exact form that he is 100% attracted to that form. But in this age of Kali, he comes particularly in the form of a holy name. Then we have the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the literary incarnation of the Lord. So the point is that if we take shelter of the Lord and approach the Lord in a way, in a desperate way, because we are facing an obstacle on the spiritual path due to our previous offenses. And due to these previous offenses, we are actually still here. And we will not be able to move out of this material world as long as we are committing offenses and as long as we don't get rid of them. So there are various offenses can be done. But the most severe are those to the holy name. And chanting of the holy name can nullify the offense to the holy dham or to the deity of the Lord. But it is very difficult to nullify the offenses to the holy name. But still, Lord Chaitanya is so merciful that if one takes shelter of him and chants the holy name, in that way, gradually, the offenses to the holy name will be nullified. And we can see that from the life of Thakur Haridas, who prayed, Dasha Paradayena Hridayena Pashe, Kripakari Mahaprabhu Majinamaras. O Mahaprabhu, please be merciful to me, so that 10 offenses never touch my heart, and I can always remain absorbed in relationship with your holy name. So he was taking shelter of Lord Chaitanya and chanting the holy name, praying, such a personality, praying, please protect me, protect my heart from the 10 offenses to the holy name, so that I can continue relish the relationship with you. Yes, Prabhu. This is from Harinam Chintamani. I can give you the reference after the class. So, taking shelter of the holy name and taking shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from taking shelter of the Lord, because the holy name is non-different from the Lord and the Bhagavatam is non-different from the Lord. It's just like when a child gets afraid of someone or something, he runs behind his father or mother and grabs the dhoti and stands behind and embraces the legs, because the child is small, embraces the legs of a father and is very scared. So in a similar way, that should be our attitude. Chanting is not just a repetition of the mantra. Reading the Bhagavatam is not just ordinary reading or spending time before lunch just to do something, or because we have to do it, because I promised to chant 16 rounds, so I will chant now because I promised. At least that I can do because I promised. But if we change the mentality, if we switch the attitude, if we start taking shelter of the holy name, if we start taking shelter of the Bhagavatam, then the effect will be different. So we can embrace the holy name within our heart when we chant. We can embrace the Bhagavatam when we read, when we hear. And the more we do that, the better it will be for us. And gradually, the heart will be purified. Gradually, the offenses will get off. Even the curses, they will be nullified. It is possible. We just have to believe and have faith and do our work, our endeavor, and Krishna will reciprocate. Because he says in the Bhagavad Gita, as they surrender unto me, I reward them, I reciprocate accordingly. So I like to see that word surrender, I like to replace it with the word, as they take shelter of me, I reward them accordingly, I reciprocate accordingly. And if we do that every day, then we are safe. Then we are safe. And if we behave properly with devotees, if we pay a bit of attention, not to offend anyone, just to be friendly, kind, compassionate, see what we can do for others. Maybe even just to approach honestly and sincerely and listen to another person for 5 minutes makes a big difference. So I wish to stop now. My point was to emphasize that taking shelter of the holy name, taking shelter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, can actually help us in our spiritual life very much. It is essential. Taking shelter of Guru. And in that way, whatever obstacle is there will be slackened gradually. So thank you very much. Ramananda Gopal Prabhu.
Thank you very much for this thought-provoking class. And I think it's a very important point to consider offenses. On the other hand, I don't want to go on this point that we made an offense that we came in the material world. I think this is a touchy topic, what can be said many things about it. But even in the material world, to not commit offenses is almost impossible. Because you always will, in German there's the saying, allen Menschen recht getan ist eine Kunst, die niemand kann. Meaning, to please everybody is an art nobody is able to. So, if we walk around as Vaishnavas with the understanding, oh, I could offend. I saw such Vaishnavas. They don't progress. And even then taking shelter doesn't help them being afraid of offenses. That doesn't mean we should make offenses. My point, what I want to make is, it's more important, and we see this also in the story of Manikriva and Nalakuvera and Narada Muni, because what we should look for is not the offense to avoid, it's more the
Bashar.
It's more the blessing what we can get. To seek the blessings instead of avoiding the offenses. Because I think the blessings of the Vaishnavas, and Narada Muni, he cursed them, and I think Narada Muni was not angry like Daksha, or he was not burning. He thought they have to learn a lesson, and therefore he gave them actually the blessing to get liberated by the Lord himself. So my point is, seeking blessings much more important or much more helpful to get out of this material mindset than seeking to avoid the offenses.
Yeah, very good point. Thank you.
Prabhuji, they're one and the same, okay? So if you're seeking the blessings of other Vaishnavas, then automatically, what's that, Vishal?
Then don't offend them.
Yeah, but in seeking the blessings of the Vaishnavas, you are already avoiding offenses. So they're kind of one and the same. But they're just the opposite of each other, right? So this is a transcendental, this is a non-karmic phenomena, which is the blessings aren't karmic, they're purely spiritual, and a curse is also spiritual in a sense, or can be spiritual. But I'm just saying that if we're conducting ourselves properly, we're already going to get the blessings. I had another question too, though. It's a bit heavier, but that was that in the verse Kali Karera Dhamma Krishna Nama Sankirtan Krishna Shakti Vina Nare Dare Pravetan, that in this age of Kali the proper method is chanting Hare Krishna. But unless one has Krishna Shakti, unless one is empowered by Krishna, then he cannot propagate Krishna consciousness. So is this to mean that if we are stagnating, if ISKCON is stagnating, then one must assume that there is some offense to the Acharyas, if ISKCON's not growing? Because if we are to get the blessings of the Vaishnava, then we can have all success. And how many times did Prabhupada say that it's only due to the blessings of his Guru Maharaj that he was able to propagate the Hare Krishna movement? Hare Krishna.
Is that a comment or question?
Why do you think ISKCON is not growing?
It's not growing like it was in the 70s, so I'm just saying, why is this happening? It's not growing.
You should go to India. Maybe you should go to India to see how ISKCON
In the West, okay, so just in the West.
I think it is growing, but maybe not so rapidly as it was in the beginning. But still devotees are joining, still devotees are advancing in their spiritual life, still there is some purification of the heart. Maybe we don't see it externally so much, but still the books are distributed every day. So the more
It's maintaining, it's not really growing. So it's
Yeah.
devotees are being made, also devotees are leaving. So just a question, food for thought.
Thank you. Yes, Mataji.
I remember one Russian devotee preacher said that. I remember one Russian speaking is on
I think not.
that offense to the devotee. One Russian speaking preacher said that the offense is not in not doing something wrong to the devotee, but the offense is not to make it better, not to ask for forgiveness or something to make it better. This is the offense. But we can be angry to somebody, we can make mistakes or something else. This is not a problem, but that we don't rectify. Es nicht wieder gut machen. Wie sagt man? Not repent. No. The repentance is like making it better. Like, ich weiß nicht, wie das auf Englisch ist.
Yeah, but we understood. Thank you. Ramananda, go.
And I think that first of all, I think this was a very nice point, because to try to make it better, there comes the blessing. Even if I offend somebody and I go to this person and ask for forgiveness, automatically this person will bless me also for my act of humility. So therefore, I think that the blessings are much more powerful than the curses. So many. We all were brahmacharis, and we all, they say brahmacharis when they're a little bit puffed up, they get cursed by the girls, right? And therefore they have to get, they have to get married or something like that. I don't say that's really true, but seeing this, that in this other life situation, so much blessing come around by and also advancement. But my other point, what I wanted to say to this growing effect of ISKCON, Prabhupada also gave the blessing that he said in one point, let's boil down the milk. And I think this process for a society to grow healthy is also to kind of stabilize themselves, not only expanding. In the war, you also have to, you can push through the country, but in one point you have to build up the backup of it, to make it stable. So maybe it's also, one can also see it like that. That we now in the process of becoming stable and basically boil down the milk and see where we are and getting stable as a society.
Becoming
Just
more mature.
become more and more mature. That's just a thought. I don't know. I don't say it's wrong what you said, but I thought one can also see it from this side. I'm always looking more from the positive outside. Sorry.
Sanjay, Prabhu?
Srila Prabhupada, as far as I remember, he said that one cannot avoid being offensive when one starts chanting. So we can transfer that principle that when this movement is growing in this world, the people who come to the movement, they are not perfect in chanting, and they're not perfect devotees in the sense of transcendental pure. So then there's no contradiction between those two standpoints. It needs the growth, and then it needs the boiling of the milk, which means to become pure, as far as I understand. So, and then that purity can again expand itself in this world, and then again attract unboiled milk, and then the milk has to be boiled again. So I guess it always goes like that. Is it a good thought?
It's a good thought. Of course. Thank you. Anything else? If not, then we can proceed by taking shelter of prasadam. Yes. By the way, many devotees are saying that Mahaprasadam of Lord Nrsimhadev is the best here, especially in Simhachalam. I know Brian is very excited every day about it, and me too. I guess everybody else also. So we can take shelter now of the prasadam. Yes, Prabhu.
I would like to know how to get the blessings. Is it that you have to ask for a blessing, especially, or you are by your behavior to a senior devotee, he sees what your desire is for spiritual advancement, and then he gives the blessing to you. So how to get the blessings?
I think it's a mixture of both. You can ask, there is no harm, but as you said, your behavior, your service, attitude towards the seniors will invoke them to be naturally compassionate and merciful towards you. And they will wish well always for you. But if you are very humble and if you approach a sadhu in such a way, seeking blessings, that is also very good. If it is genuine, it is also very good. Thank you. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaura Premanand.